Okay, let's dive into something truly thought-provoking today. Imagine, just for a second, a war. But not with, bombs and bullets. Imagine one far deadlier than any conflict we know from history, happening right now, silently, claiming millions of lives every single year. I mean, a casualty count that just absolutely dwarfs even the devastation of the Second World War.
It's quite a premise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really unsettling. But the source material we're looking into today, including this powerful argument laid out in La Guerra Silenciosa, it presents a really compelling case.
Which is?
Well, that the combined forces of climate change,
Right.
widespread pollution, and this escalating global mental health crisis, that these are, in fact, this silent war.
A silent war.
Yeah, responsible for annual deaths far exceeding the average 5 million or so we saw during World War II each year.
Wow. Okay. So our mission today is to really go deep into these sources.
Right.
We're talking La Guerra Silenciosa, but also critical data from places like the World Health Organization, the IPCC on climate.
The CDC, yeah.
Yeah.
Global health authorities, climate science bodies, public health agencies.
Exactly. And we want to pull out the core insights, reveal the true scale of this modern, almost invisible threat. And crucially, explore why. Why does it remain so unnoticed, unspoken, maybe even unaddressed?
That really is the critical question, isn't it? If these crises are truly so devastating, I mean, why don't they command the same level of global urgency, the same attention as traditional conflicts?
Yeah, where's the G7 summit on air pollution deaths? Right?
Precisely. So we'll connect this to the bigger picture. We'll look at the specific data, the impacts that make this comparison so stark, and try to understand why the source argues we've kind of collectively failed to see it for what it truly is.
And when you start actually pulling back the curtain on those numbers, they really do hit you quite hard.
They do.
The source material, and it cites data from organizations like the WHO, it makes it chillingly clear. These aren't just, minor health concerns or some abstract environmental problems.
No, not at all.
We're talking about millions of preventable deaths every single year.
Preventable. That's the key word. The source really highlights this. For instance, air pollution alone, responsible for 8.1 million premature deaths back in 2021.
8.1 million just from air pollution.
Just air pollution. And it emphasizes, it's the insidious nature of it, that fine particulate matter, PM 2.5. It just silently gets into our lungs, our bloodstream, leading to cardiovascular problems, respiratory diseases.
And to put that number, 8.1 million, into perspective for you listening.
Yeah.
That single figure already blasts past the average annual death toll of World War II.
It does.
Exactly.
Pollution alone.
It's staggering. It almost makes you wonder if focusing just on these individual numbers, maybe lets us miss the forest for the trees. Does the source talk about that? Like, are we overlooking the broader systemic failures?
That's a really perceptive point. And yes, the source does warn against that, against just reducing this whole thing to mere statistics. It really emphasizes that it's the preventability and, crucially, the systemic inaction that truly define this silent war.
Okay.
So it goes on to highlight other fronts, like non-communicable diseases, NCDs.
Things like heart disease, cancer.
Exactly. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, often directly linked to lifestyle, yes, but also environmental factors heavily influenced by policy and industry. These account for an estimated, wait for it, 41 million deaths annually.
41 million.
41 million globally. So the source poses the question, why doesn't a public health crisis of this magnitude register with the same alarm as, say, a battlefield casualty report?
It's a powerful question. It really is chilling to think about these pervasive threats just flying under the radar for most people. So, okay, if air pollution and these NCDs are claiming tens of billions, how does something like climate change fit into this silent war idea? The source calls it a threat multiplier, which makes sense, but it also seems like another area where the deaths often remain invisible.
Absolutely. That's a key part of the argument. The IPCC's reports, which the source points to, directly link rising death rates to these climate shifts.
How specifically?
Well, think about heat waves, for instance, increasingly becoming direct causes of death, especially for the vulnerable. Or extreme weather events, floods, droughts, megastorms. They don't just cause immediate fatalities, though they certainly do that.
Right, there's the aftermath, too.
Exactly. They wipe out healthcare infrastructure. They contaminate water, leading to disease outbreaks like cholera. They destroy crops, leading to malnutrition and starvation. The source argues these climate-related deaths are just as real, just as devastating as those caused by bullets. But they don't generate the same public outcry, the same media frenzy, because they lack that concentrated spectacle, that single moment of visible destruction.
It's spread out, diffuse, harder to pin down.
Precisely. Harder to turn into a simple news headline.
And then there's the other really difficult piece, the crisis of mental health. The source uses this powerful phrase, diseases of suffering, which really gets to the heart of it. And while it might not always lead to a direct death certificate citing mental illness, it causes immense suffering and, tragically, leads to loss of life through suicide and overdose.
Yes, and the source uses the opioid crisis, particularly in the United States, as just a stark, heartbreaking example of this silent front.
What did the numbers show there?
Well, the source cites CDC data showing that drug overdose deaths are now exceeding 100,000 annually in the U.S., and a huge, growing portion of that is attributed to synthetic opioids like fentanyl.
Over 100,000 a year.
Yeah. And this isn't just a statistic, right? It's a clear, devastating indicator of a crisis of despair, of anguish that's claiming thousands upon thousands of lives. And again, the source argues these deaths don't trigger the widespread social alarm of a conventional conflict.
Why not?
Because, well, death from silent anguish, from addiction, from despair, it doesn't have that same media impact. It doesn't have the immediate battlefield imagery. It often happens behind closed doors. It simply doesn't make headlines in the same urgent, demanding way.
Okay. So as we pull all these different threads together, air pollution, NCDs, climate impacts, mental health and overdose crisis, what the source contends about the true nature of this silent war becomes incredibly potent, doesn't it?
It really does. The cumulative picture is overwhelming.
So let's try and sum this up. What does this all mean for you, listening? We've seen how the source material lays out this stark reality. We're talking, 8.1 million premature deaths annually just from air pollution?
20 million, yeah.
Then another 41 million from non-communicable diseases, many linked to lifestyle and environment.
A staggering number.
And then over 100,000 deaths a year just from the opioid crisis, especially fentanyl, mainly in the U.S., but it's a global issue too. And then you have to add in the increasing mortality from heat waves, extreme weather, famine, disease, all amplified by climate change. You put those figures together and they just utterly dwarf the estimated 5 million annual deaths during World War II.
They do. And looking at that larger context, connecting it all, the source argues very forcefully, these are not inevitable deaths. They are preventable.
Preventable?
Yes. And what's particularly compelling, or perhaps disturbing, is the assertion that this silent war persists. It continues, precisely because it lacks the media spectacle of traditional conflict.
It's hidden.
It's hidden, it's disseminated, it's spread out, and maybe worst of all, it's become disturbingly normalized. Part of the background noise. The source even suggests that this silence isn't just passive ignorance. It's sometimes maintained, perhaps actively, by minimizing these truths.
By who?
Well, the source points fingers broadly, sometimes politicians, sometimes businesses with vested interests, sometimes media outlets, maybe even well-intentioned individuals who just fear creating panic or alarm. There's this active minimization happening.
That's a heavy thought. And the source's concluding idea on this, it's really something to chew on. It states very clearly that the silent war is deadlier than any traditional conflict, full stop. And that as long as it's not recognized as such, as a war against life, as they put it, millions will just keep dying.
Dying in the shadows.
Yeah. Due to inaction, denial, economic interests, collective irresponsibility, and maybe just the fear of speaking the plain, hard truth.
Which really compels us to consider, and this is a question for you, the listener, if, as this source contends, only when the invisible becomes visible can the inadmissible start to change. What does it really mean for our society when the most lethal war we face isn't fought with bombs, but with silence?
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're starting a deep dive that really challenges something pretty fundamental. It's this common idea, that deaths from pollution are just, well, an inevitable cost. The price you pay for technology, for economic growth. It's often framed that way, isn't it? Like it's unavoidable. Our main source today is an excerpt from an article called The Silent War, Progress versus Life. And honestly, right out of the gate, it doesn't pull any punches. It calls this whole narrative a dangerous and morally unsustainable fallacy. When I first read that line, it really made me stop and think, question something I'd sort of just accepted.
Yeah, it's striking, isn't it? What's really fascinating here is how the article frames it. It basically says this narrative tricks us, makes us accept this unthinkable exchange. Human lives traded for this promise of greater well-being. And it immediately gets you thinking, is that even a real choice? Or is it, a false dilemma we've been sold? It really challenges our core idea of what progress even means if it demands such a terrible price.
That's the crucial point, right?
Yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive is to explore that. Is this inevitability thing a genuine fact? A law of nature, almost? Or is it maybe just a convenient story? An excuse we've gotten used to? And maybe more importantly, what should a genuine vision of human progress actually look like?
Yeah.
One that puts people first.
Yeah.
So yeah, get ready. This might shift some assumptions. This could be a really interesting discussion. After really digging into this source, one of the things that hit me hardest was how it flips the script on inevitable costs.
Yeah.
It argues they're not inevitable at all. They're conscious choices.
Exactly.
It says pollution isn't some fixed scientific outcome, but the result of decisions, prioritizing short-term gains maybe over the long-term costs.
Right. It's a profound shift because it puts accountability right back on us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It forces you to ask, well, what else have we been told is inevitable that maybe isn't?
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, this reframing isn't just about, cleaning things up a bit. It's about fundamentally rethinking what progress is. The article essentially argues that real technological and scientific leaps should naturally aim to increase health, prolong life, enrich our environment. They shouldn't be sacrificing those things.
Right. Not a trade-off, but an enhancement.
Precisely. Imagine if our biggest inventions weren't just about faster gadgets, but things that genuinely extend healthy lives or heal ecosystems. The article suggests that's not some far-off utopia. That's what real innovation looks like. And it gives some solid examples, too, of what this kind of true progress involves. Things like really developing and adopting clean technologies. We're talking renewable energy that's genuinely zero-emission, electric vehicles thought about from cradle to grave, sustainability-wise. It's about designing solutions from the start that don't create the burden.
And it's broader than just energy and cars, right? I remember it mentioning healthcare production.
Absolutely, spot on. True progress also means pushing forward with preventive and personalized medicine. This is where things like biotech and AI could be transformative. Instead of just reacting to sickness, imagine using someone's unique genetic data, their lifestyle info, to predict health risks way ahead of time. Then you tailor treatments. Maximize effectiveness. That's how you genuinely increase longevity and, crucially, quality of life.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the third big piece it highlights is creating circular production systems. Think about it. It's way beyond just recycling a bottle. It's designing that bottle and everything else with materials and processes so that waste from one thing becomes the resource for something new, maybe something totally different.
Closing the loop.
Exactly. Eliminating the whole concept of waste and the pollution that comes with it by design. It's a massive shift from our current take, make, dispose habit to something regenerative.
Wow. That vision of progress, clean tech, personalized medicine, circular systems, it feels so different from where we often are now. And the article, it doesn't really hold back describing that current reality, does it? It uses that powerful analogy, the silent war.
Yeah, that's a stark term.
It argues this silent conflict is actually more lethal every year than, say, World War II, which is staggering. And its weapons aren't tanks and bombs. They're climate change, air, water pollution, even the growing mental health crisis linked to environmental factors.
And it grounds this claim, right? It points to data from respected bodies.
Yes, it mentions organizations like the World Health Organization, the WHO, and the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, as providing the evidence for this scale of impact. But what's really chilling, I think, is the invisibility it talks about. No big explosions, no peace treaties signed, no monuments built for the casualties.
It just happens.
Yeah,
Silent.
exactly. And it points fingers, too.
Yeah.
Identifies the orchestrators. Political inaction, corporate greed, our own collective irresponsibility, perhaps. The article really stresses that minimizing these numbers, or dismissing the war analogy, just helps keep it silent. It perpetuates the problem.
Which brings up a huge question, doesn't it? If this war is so deadly, why is it so silent? The article's answer seems to be about values. It argues we haven't really redefined what we truly value as progress.
Okay.
It suggests we should see technology and science not as, accidental contributors to the crisis, but as the essential tools to fix it. The most vital innovation, it argues, might not be the next smartphone, as you said earlier. It's the breakthrough that purifies our air or finds a cure for diseases directly caused by pollution. It's about shifting where we put our focus, our investment, our collective brain power.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for us? For you listening right now, The source material is pretty clear. It frames this silent war as arguably the biggest, most lethal threat we face. And it says ending it depends entirely on us, on breaking the silence, making the invisible visible.
That's a strong call to action.
It really is. It left me thinking quite a bit. We're left to reflect, really, on what it means for technology and human health, planetary health, to finally become, well, synonyms for life. Instead of being used as convenient excuses for death and destruction, it challenges us, doesn't it, to ask, are we just accepting things as they are, or are we ready to demand a better definition of progress?